Before we begin the episode, I would like to thank our sponsor, Field Queens, an Irish-owned GAA and leisurewear brand created by two inter-county players, Oonagh Whyte and Orlaith Duff. The girls have put aside their inter-county rivalries to create Ireland's first ever GAA glove specifically designed and tailored fit to the female hand. Field Queens are empowering future generations and offer a 15% team discount on gloves and are proud to be stocked in 10 stores nationwide. Having only started this venture in 2021, they have steadily grown their product line to include their original Empower gloves, bobble hats, snoods and water bottles. They are excited to launch a brand new blackout glove to the market this month, so be sure to keep an eye out on their social media at Field Queens and their website fieldqueens.ie for more. Welcome back to the Sideline Live podcast. You can follow us over on Twitter and Instagram at the Sideline Live. We'd love to hear from you. On the first episode of our brand new Ladies Gaelic football series, we chat with Dublin star Hannah Tyrrell. On this episode, we discuss her underage career, playing in goal for Dublin, moving to rugby, free taking, extra practice, and so much more. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with Hannah, so I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks a million for joining me on the podcast.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Delighted to have you on for a chat. You were a fantastic season this year coming back to football, but I don't think many people know you were an underage goalkeeper with Dublin.
Yeah, look, it seems like such a long time ago now, but when I first started playing Gaelic football with Round Towers in Clondalkin, I found myself in goal for a couple of their games, and I went to Dublin trials under 14, and that was the start of my goalkeeping career for Dublin, and I played underage right through the ranks with them as a goalkeeper.
What's it like kind of transitioning then from a goalie to outfield? Is there anything that you've maybe taken from your time as a goalie? I think particularly as a forward, you kind of know what the most awkward spots is for a goalie when you're scoring a goal. Technically, it's probably the corners, is it?
Yeah, look, obviously, firstly, for me, I never really liked playing in goal, so it's way more fun to be an outfielder. I think you're way more involved in the game. You know, a goalkeeper can be, for long periods of the game, maybe not be involved too much, you know, and kind of can't put your own stamp on it. I suppose that's when you're playing with a good team and you're lucky enough there. But I suppose as an outfielder, what I'm trying to do is kind of go, what would I do if I was a goalkeeper right now? Where would I want the ball to be placed and stuff like that? And there are pros to kind of having that knowledge in my head, like what kickouts are very, very difficult to hit, and you know what puts keepers off, etc. But look, it's not something I'm massively focusing on in a game, but there would be little things I'd try to work on week by week.
You had a lot of success underage, an All-Ireland under-16 and minor title and a Senior B title as well. Talk us through those years, and I think you did play senior in goal. Was it a league campaign?
Yeah. So underage, we had an amazing squad, and players like Goldie, Niamh McAvoy, and Noelle Healy, and going back even like Fiona Hudson. We're all kind of part of the same squad from under 14 right up to senior level. So like we were very successful. I'm very lucky to be part of that squad and winning All Ireland's underage. And then I played Senior B because I wanted to be an outfielder. And then senior, I played my first year up senior was 2009, I think it was. And I was sub goalie to Cleena. And then I kind of was like, I don't really want to play goal and I don't want to sit in the bench either. So I went to the Senior Bs again. But back then in 2013, I joined the Dublin senior team as an outfielder for the league and then went off to J1. And then 2014 I came back and was convinced to go in goal because Cleena had just retired, and so I played in goal for that league, and they got to the league final for the first time, and then my rugby career started and I stepped away from the Dublin panel. So I played senior with Dublin just in the league, but this year when I came back it was the first year and I made my championship debut.
Could you tell from, like, you named a couple of players at that underage squad that are now become stars of the game, like Noelle Healy, former player of the year. Could you tell back then that they were destined for what the players they had become?
I suppose, yeah. Look, they, like, as I mentioned, we actually had a very, very good team. Numerous players went on to play senior, but I suppose the impact of the likes of Noelle, Goldie and Macker, Fiona Hudson had on the senior team was massive as well, and they did stand out in some ways, but there was a lot of other players like Orlaith Egan was a standout underage as well, and every second year I played with Lindsay, and she was already playing with the senior team by then, so she was a definite like superstar already, you know. But there were little bits, but I think some of those players really added to their game over the years, and I think that's what made them the player they were. You know, Goldie was always a player who was driving forward, you know, trying to get involved. Sorry.
No, you're grand. You're grand.
He clearly agrees. But you know, there were a couple of times underage where people doubted her ability because of her size. You know, she really had to work on that, and she turned into an exceptional player for Dublin. And I love that determination in her to kind of prove people wrong. And you know, she's numerous All Stars, numerous All Ireland winner, fabulous player. You know, so we've been very, very lucky to have her, and I've been lucky to play alongside her for a long time.
Across your Dublin career and your Irish career, when you talk about elite level players and the best players in the game, do you see any common attributes between players? Is there just something that just kind of you realise, God, that's very similar to each other? What do you think separates the good from the great? I've asked, it's kind of like my mission to find the answer to this question now at the podcast.
I don't know if I have that answer. I suppose there are just some players, and I mentioned already, like Goldie, you know, she had maybe some doubters when she was younger, and she obviously put in that hard work to prove people wrong. And I suppose you get people at the top level who are willing to work on every aspect of their game. You know, you'll always have great players who might have a great right foot and be great scorers, and they're content to be just great scorers, you know. Whereas if you look at someone like Lindsay Davy, she's been an amazing attribute for Dublin over the years, but not just because of the points she scores and the goals and stuff she sets up, but also because of her willingness in defence to put in big tackles and to press really hard and kind of do the dog work that maybe other players wouldn't, you know. And I suppose it's that you're willing to work on aspects of your game that mightn't be your strong point, and that not just show you off to be a brilliant individual athlete, but to show that you're willing to work for the team and be a great teammate.
Talk us through moving to rugby. Was the intention moving to just pick up a new sport, or was it to potentially play with Ireland?
Initially just to play a sport. So I initially started playing in 2013 with Old Belvedere's second team, like just to try a new sport. The Irish women's team had just won the Grand Slam in 2013 and gotten a bit of coverage, and I knew a couple of faces like Nora Stapleton and the likes, and it was cool to see that. And I always kind of wanted to try loads of different sports, and I was like, oh, rugby would be a good one to try. But did I think I'd ever play for Ireland with it? Absolutely not. You know, only until I got a phone call asking me to come into the sevens did Ireland become a reality. Would I have always liked to play for Ireland at rugby? Yes, definitely. Like, but did I think it would ever happen? Absolutely not, because for me, I always thought rugby was going to be a hobby in the off season to Gaelic football.
Okay, very good. And what's it like being called into the Irish setup? I know you played sevens and 15s. Can you describe that kind of professionalism, and even the players? Like, there was a lot of dual players like Lindsay Peat, Aoife McDermott on previously, Emer Considine. It seemed to be that they really took advantage of players from a wide variety of sports.
Yeah, so particularly sevens, like I first got my taste of the Irish setup through sevens, been brought in, and that's a very different setup, or it was at least back then, to the 15s, where 15s was completely amateur, whereas sevens, it was an Olympic sport, so it was contracted, so there was so much more contact time for sevens players, and they were centrally contracted and brought to Dublin to train and stuff like that. So
okay.
But like, even just being given that opportunity to come into sevens, to train every day or almost every day, and to like have the best coaches, you know, have proper nutritionists there and facilities and physios and everything to look after you, was something that I'd never really had before. You know, Dublin was well set up, but this was on another level, you know. And even just that experience, you know, being on a contract, this technically being like my part-time job while I was a student, was an unbelievable feeling, you know. And I didn't really, I suppose it's not until you retire that you realize how significant it was. And growing up, I didn't ever think that, one, I'd play rugby, or two, let alone get paid to play it, you know. And it was just amazing to really just give everything to sport and not have to really worry too much about anything else.
Yeah. And what was it like then, as you say, moving to the 15s, a little bit more of an amateur set? Well, you weren't on the contract, let's say, for that setup.
Yeah, like, and essentially they were and still are amateur. Like, and the way it worked for me is I was a contracted sevens player, but we were given an opportunity to trial for the 2015 Six Nations squad because there'd been a lot of retirements after the 2014 World Cup. And even just going, they only met up for weekend camps, you know, so they might, back then they mightn't have seen each other for, you know, 4 or 5 months of the year, if not longer, and then kind of got together around December, January for the upcoming Six Nations. And going in there, you know, with players like Ali Miller, back then obviously Nora Stapleton was still around, and Jenny Murphy and the likes of those. It's like you see them on TV, and thankfully I played with all of those at Belleville, but it was still quite overwhelming to be in that setup. You know, the sevens squad, as you mentioned, was a lot of transfer players. So a lot of them came from the likes of Gaelic football and had on hockey and athletics and had backgrounds like that. But 15s felt like a whole new challenge again. And it was exciting, and it was nice to play a different form of the game and a different way of playing it. And it was really enjoyable. And obviously, thankfully, that very first season I made that squad and we won the Six Nations. So like 15's always held a special place in my heart because of the success we had that first season. It kind of ignited something in me that I really loved 15's and wanted to play it as much as I could.
What's it like putting on the Irish jersey and kind of listen and, you know, singing the anthem for the first time? Can you describe that feeling?
Like, not really. Like, obviously there's words like it's amazing, it's unbelievable, but I don't know if that does it justice.
Okay.
The home crowds are the best. Like my favorite one of all time was the home World Cup in 2017, that very first game against Australia. Like, it was a sold out crowd. There was a scramble from people for tickets beforehand, because usually you used to just be able to pay at the gate, but that was the first time where tickets were proper sold out, and people were like texting, you know, the hours and days before the match going like, any tickets going? Do you know, there was a real buzz about it.
Yeah.
And we had a really good squad, and while we didn't obviously perform in the end to that, like that national anthem in front of a home crowd, my family, like, it was just, there was a serious buzz about it, and it just makes you really excited to play. And I suppose you really feel that pride, like, you know, for your country, and that you want to do well for everyone that's there.
What did your family think of you saying, "Oh, I'm going to try rugby"? They're like, "This one's mad"? Like,
yeah, a little bit. Like, I kind of don't, like, when I went to Old Belvedere, I actually don't think I told my family that I was going down training. Like, I just kind of went, you know, and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm playing rugby at the weekend," you know. And then when I got called into the Irish and set up initially, they were kind of like, "What? Like, you can get paid for this, and you can, you know, travel the world?" And because I hadn't signed a contract too long, and I was heading off to Amsterdam for my first sevens cap, like, and it was a bit of a whirlwind. And to be honest, I don't think my family even understood the rules yet. I don't even know if I understood the rules and how to properly play sevens yet. But look, they're immensely proud. I think they were kind of like, "Oh yeah, another sport. Here we go." Like, you know. So it took my mom a long time to like be like, "Have you got football training?" I'm like, "No, ma'am, I don't play football anymore. I actually just play rugby," you know. And she's like, "Oh yeah." And like, still now, she's like, if I'm like, "Oh, I have a match," she's like, "Is this Ireland or Dublin?" I'm like, no, I don't play with Ireland anymore. I just play with Dublin. I've retired. She's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." So like, I think they just go, I tell them what I'm doing, and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool."
Grand. Yeah, see you there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if through your rugby career, if you could go back and relive any moment or any match, what would it be?
It is really hard to pick one. Like, you know, my first cap was amazing, but it wasn't at home for 15s, you know, and same with my sevens cap. I think winning the Six Nations was incredible. And again, didn't realize how big a deal it was until, you know, a couple of years later when we hadn't won again. In sevens in Australia, my whole family were over there when we came fourth in the highest ranking we've ever had. That was special. And then that World Cup, that very first game of the World Cup, like, there's loads, and it is really hard to pick one when there's been so many good moments, you know.
Talk us through your decision to retire and kind of come back to Gaelic football. How did that all come about?
Yeah, like, they weren't interlinked, you know. And last year, when I've always been a lover of GAA, I did think that when I joined the Irish setup for rugby, that it'd only be a couple of years, and maybe after Rio 2016, I'd be back at GA, and it ended up being a little longer than that. But
Mhm.
I always had plans with the 15s team to retire after the World Cup, which was meant to be October gone. And, you know, the thing that people maybe don't realize with sport, and particularly with sevens where there's an awful lot of travel, is that it takes up an awful lot of your time. And, you know, 15s, they train all weekend, every weekend. So there is a lot of commitment to it. You miss out on so many events and weddings, and you restrict yourself to certain things throughout the year, and it's quite hard to move on with the career and with family life and everything else while you're in that setup.
Yeah.
And I'd always planned on retiring after the World Cup, and when that got postponed by a year, I just felt like 18 months for me to keep committing to the 15s team was something that I couldn't give 100% to. I could have stretched myself to October and really enjoyed the World Cup, but I just couldn't see myself giving 18 months of 100% commitment. And if I couldn't give 100%, it wasn't fair on the team, and if I wasn't going to be around for the next World Cup, I don't think I should take a place in the squad up till then, because I knew that 10 was a position they were struggling with, and I wanted them to have time to develop that.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that, I obviously ended up having a free summer, which I had planned to be, preparing for a World Cup. And I had gotten back into GA with my new club, Nafina, the summer before because of COVID. And Mick had kind of contacted me in that time, wondering was I up to join the squad. And I said, look, once I retire from the rugby, if you still want me, I'll definitely come have a tryout, and it just came about. I had a free summer. I went down to a couple of sessions, and Mick was happy to have me on board, and I was delighted to join.
What's it like walking into the dressing room for the first time and coming back to the setup? I know that some of the girls would have been there, but it was majority like completely new management. I know you knew Mick, but a lot of the players would have been totally different from back in 2010, 2013 even.
Absolutely. It was really daunting. Like, I was very, very nervous that first night, and they weren't long back training either. And like a couple of them kind of were like glancing at me like, hey, like, what are you doing here? And I hadn't even told like my Nafina teammates, Leah or Lucy, and they were like, what are you doing here? And I was like, surprise. I was like, I'm just out for a couple of weeks to see like, what it's like. And obviously the girls I knew, Lindsay, Nerd, like Nicole, they were all brilliant. Like, I knew all them, and Siobhan McGrath, delighted to see me and all that, and Goldie when they arrived back. But some of the newer people kind of knew me but didn't know me.
Yeah.
Particularly, it helped that I'd played club the season before, so I'd kind of gotten to know a few people off the pitch a little. But they were lovely. Everybody was so accommodating, but like, there was no special treatment. My very first training back, I had a 1K test that I wasn't expecting,
Yeah.
I love that though, that you just go in. I was just like any other player, there was no like, oh, you're just adjusting back in. Like, if you aren't good enough, see you later. And thankfully Mick gave me a chance.
And what's it like if you coming back? I know you played club, but can you see a difference in the game from before you moved to rugby? Like, what do you think has been the biggest evolution of Gaelic football over the past few years?
Look, like when we were playing the game and even watching the seniors play back in 2011, 2012, 13, 14, like there was still some brilliant football being played. Like, don't get me wrong, but I just think across the board the level of talent has increased. Back 10 years ago you had one or two, maybe three superstars, like, and now just on each team there could easily be four or five superstars. And the promotion of Gaelic games over the last few years has been a huge success, and it's really evident, I suppose, in today's game. And like, you only have to look at a team like Meath, who have absolutely put everything into ladies Gaelic football, and then they're reaping the rewards of it now. And just the speed of it has improved, the skills has improved, the kicking in particular has massively improved. And like, just some of the young players coming through, I can't believe the level of skill and talent they have. And I'm like, oh my god, you look at someone like Jennifer Dunn, who's only 21, and I'm like, she's only 21. She still has another 10 plus years of unbelievable talent and growth, and it's just incredible. Like, I can't wait. The game is only growing, and in some ways I wish I was a little younger to be able to live through and experience that.
Yeah. Could you compare I know it's very hard to, but the Dublin and the Irish setups, because the argument's there now that GAA and ladies football has become nearly professional. How close is it to being a professional setup?
Well, like it probably like what I loved about Dublin was that they're amateur and they're very happy to be amateur because they realize that people play Gaelic football as a hobby, and while they love it, it's not their whole life. And that's the big thing that they push, like both in rugby and in GA, that you have something else to sport, because sport doesn't always go well. But Dublin, while amateur, obviously have a very professional setup in terms of their backroom staff and nutrition and everything that's provided to us. And it is great to see, but like we're professional when we have to be in terms of our attitude, how we prepare, how we present ourselves on the pitch. But we're well able to enjoy ourselves, have a laugh, have a few drinks together as a team and everything else. And that's what I really love about the Dublin setup, is that yes, when we need to be, we're professional and we do everything we need to, but the amateur side, that is just as important, and we let our hair down and we enjoy ourselves when we can. And it just, for me, it made it a really enjoyable summer, and just playing and enjoying, but it also not taking up every aspect of my life.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Something I'm really impressed with Dublin is the dressing room and the leaders on the squad. Who has the biggest influence on the team in terms of the leadership, and in the dressing room, who would be the kind of go-to influencer there?
To be honest, the good thing with Dublin is there's not just one. You obviously have a standout in someone like Sinead Ahern. I've been captain for a number of years. Everything she says, people stop and listen, and not only does she do it off the pitch, she does it on the pitch too, and just leads by example. But you have the likes of Niamh Collins there, who again is part of the GPA, so is helping off the pitch for us as well. And the usuals, Lindsay Davey, Siobhan McGrath, they're all leaders in their own right and in terms of what they do. But like for me, it's great to see some of the younger players kind of taking ownership of that leadership and stepping up and talking more in team meetings, not being afraid to give out to players like me or Lindsay Davey, if they feel they've done something maybe outside of our team role or whatever else. And that's what you want to see. You want to see younger players stepping up and providing that leadership, because us experienced heads won't be around forever.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think you've brought to the setup from your experience as being a professional athlete and playing for Ireland? Is there anything you've noticed that you've been able to add to the team, apart from your physical ability on the pitch?
I don't know. I suppose I probably provided a different viewpoint of women's sport in Ireland. Like, it's always great to be able to, like, not just with the players, but chat with some of the management and the backroom staff, about maybe how some things were done or what I've experienced in Irish rugby, and maybe how or would that be beneficial for Dublin and for ladies GAA in general, like, and kind of little things like that. We had a saying with rugby is that, like, it's the little 1%ers that make people elite, and that 1% might be going off and doing your analysis on a team or on a player or on a match or whatever else. And 1% might be making sure you get your recovery in and fuel yourself right after a tough session, and making sure you have your notebook with you for team meetings and stuff like that. And they're all little 1% that add up, and they make you hit that 90 to 100%, which is that peak top level. And so I suppose it's just kind of my experience of what I went through in Irish rugby and seeing if that can benefit the team.
If I could go back to your first session in the 1K test and tell you that you're going to have this phenomenal season, you're going to win an All Star, what would you say to me?
I'd say you'd be lying, because and I'd tell you, if you probably asked Mick that, he'd tell you you were lying as well. I suppose I had a conversation with Mick a couple of weeks after I had been in training, and like, he was fairly honest with me and saying that when I initially joined, he was like, to be honest, I thought you'd be lucky to win a jersey for the match day panel kind of thing. And you've had some decent performances in the league, and like, we're fairly impressed with what you're doing. Like, and he wasn't plumosing me or anything here. He was also telling me the flaws and the things I have to work on as well. He's like that. But I don't know. Did I believe that the team I joined were well able to win another All Ireland? Absolutely. Like, and did I think I could add? Yes. I didn't think my role might have been as big as it was. And All Star was just a dream. The All Ireland was the big dream, but hopefully next year.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think it helped that you were transitioning back to, you said, the amateur setup and how fun Dublin is off the pitch? Did that just help you this season, that it was nearly, yes, you were focused and working hard, but it was kind of like that carefree, kind of that saying, play like a kid, was kind of back for you? Because I get the sense that you really enjoyed the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had the most fun. Like my first session back was just such a buzz, and I came home and my wife Circa was just like, "Oh God, here we go. You're gone for the summer here." Like she knew, like just how excited I was and how up for it was after one training session. Like she was like, "Oh, here we go." But like I just really loved it. I loved the challenge of being back in a sport that I loved and hadn't really played for a long time outside of club. And I do think the season before with playing just club really helped me because Nafina were Division 2 when I joined. We were senior championship. Nobody gave us a chance really, and we outdid ourselves and got to the semi-final. And again, I got to play loads. There was no pressure. We weren't expected to win much in championship, and we did, and it was just great. And I was able to just kind of learn the game a little bit more. And then going into Dublin again, I still had loads to learn, but kind of having that really positive memory from the season before and just remembering how fun Gaelic football was, because it had been such a long time. I actually forgot how fun the sport was.
Would you have a particular pre-game routine going into a game at all?
No, like to be honest, like anyone who's stuck beside me on the bus, I'm terrible. I'm really chatty. Like I don't throw in music and listen to anything. Like my taste in music is terrible, like Taylor Swift and that. It's not exactly getting you pumped up for a match kind of thing. So not really. Like I always, like, they're not even rituals. Like I can't play without undershorts now because of rugby, because I just feel like somebody's going to pull my shorts down like that. But I don't even think that's a ritual. I make sure that I take caffeine in because I got, like, in sevens in particular, like you obviously need as much fuel as you want. And so I got into a routine of what I eat. I usually just eat plain pasta and some caffeine, like an energy drink kind of thing. But other than that, it's just chatting the ears off whoever happens to be closest to me, and then you'll just see the subtle putting in the earbud, and I'm like, all right, cool, I get the gist of that. But yeah, not really. Like I try to just keep things as normal as possible. Like the day of the All Ireland final, the game was quite late, so I don't think we were meeting till probably 1 or 2 o'clock or something like that. And so I was actually FaceTiming my sister over in Australia. And she was like, "Do you have a big game? Like you should be." And I was just sitting on the couch eating my pasta, being like, "Well, should like." And like I went down to the dog park and everything, and people were like, "The final is today," and I'm like, "I know, but I don't want to sit in the house and think about it. I just think about my normal day, like and that's it. I just try to keep the days as normal as possible, and hopefully put in a good performance then, because I don't want to be dwelling and thinking on it too much.
Yeah, you just end up overthinking it.
Yeah.
Out of interest then, on the pitch, in terms of your mentality and even your self-talk, what's that like during a game?
Well, I'm probably far too competitive, and my aim is just to not let anybody beat me to the ball. Like, I'm just going like, I cannot let this person beat me. Like, that sort of way. And like, no matter who it is, they could be like myself and Eric O'Shea had a couple of good tussles over the course of the year, like, and she's a little younger than me. And, but it was just, we had great battles. And it's just that I just want to show how good I can be in a competitive setup like Dublin. If you don't perform on the pitch, you won't play the next game. So it's about beating your marker in every aspect, trying to perform your role to the best of your ability and do the job that you're set out to do, and enjoy it. Like I'm very much the type of player who's not afraid to be like, give me the ball. Like, I kind of get annoyed at that like that sometimes, and I'm just give me the ball kind of thing. But I don't know if my teammates are too happy with that. But no, I just try to enjoy it, and I try to play with a smile on my face when I can. And yeah, like I know that sport doesn't last forever, and as I said, I always wanted to play with the Dublin senior team for a really long time, and it's just trying to put in a good performance for me, my family, and for the team every time I play.
Outside of the team commitments, how much time do you put into becoming the best you can be? And is there any really specific habits I know you don't really do routines, but is there any specific really good habits that you've kind of developed over the years?
Like I suppose the one about kind of the mental side of the game. I used to be really negative about performances, and I would be very much a half or glass half empty kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
I could have scored 1-8 or something like that in a match, and yet I'd come home and be like, oh, I missed 2 wides and I let my marker score a point, or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, instead of looking and focusing on the really good things I did. So that's something I've really tried to focus on, is that, okay, yeah, you put that wide or you missed that, but look what you did do well. That's a big thing I've pushed. And outside that, it's, as I said, I'm not getting any younger. It's trying to look after the body a little bit more, and trying to do my analysis so I know teams, so I can try get an edge, those 1%ers, try get my recovery in. For the most part, eat right. I'm not perfect in that regard. I like to enjoy my life as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's not too many. The usual that hopefully most athletes would say: try recover well,
Mm-hmm.
do whatever prehab, rehab you have, and yeah, just try not focus on the negative side of things.
Mm-hmm. Is that something that you maybe would write down? And like when you're focusing on the positives, do you write down kind of a column of each, or is it just in your head? Just try to focus on
Just
it.
in my head. I used to kind of try and write things down to get them out of my head, because I wasn't a
Yeah.
great sleeper before. But now it's more the rationale of things. I kind of go, yeah, look, I'm human. I did hit that wide.
Yeah.
But I had 2 good scores here and I set up this, or I worked really hard on my tackle, which was my goal, kind of thing, or
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all in my head. Yeah.
Yeah. Out of interest, how often would you go for a kicking session? How often do you practice by yourself?
It depends. So I'm injured now, so I haven't done it in a good couple of months now. But
Mm-hmm.
kind of during the season, particularly in the summer, as I'm a teacher, I'm off a little bit more. So on non-training days, if I'm feeling really fresh, I'd head up to the local park and hit out. But it might only be once extra, but after every training session, I'm always kicking a few extra frees, working on my weaker foot, that kind of thing.
Okay. What sort of kicks are you taking, and how many kicks would you take maybe after a session or by yourself?
12 after a session, because I'm very very conscious that I've just done a session and that I don't want to overdo it and it end up being detrimental. So I picked 3 spots, 4 shots, 12 in total after a session, and they're frees, and I might then, if I'm feeling good, do a couple on my right foot and kind of leave it there. And then it depends on a non-training day, how much time I have, what's the weather like, how I'm
Yeah.
feeling, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, never anything too detrimental. Because again, like, not every day you're putting them over, and you don't want it to have a negative effect on your head. And then other days the body is not feeling it.
Yeah, I'm a free taker as well, and I'm a devil. I have to finish the session on a good kick, because if I don't and I leave on a really bad kick, I'll just on the way home I'll just absolutely scrutinise myself. But when the whistle is blown and you're going to take the free kick, what's that process, and what's your thinking? And you probably have a bit of a routine there.
I have a routine in my setup, but like, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the time my thought is, don't put it wide. Like, don't miss this. And
Okay.
I try to get that negative thing out of my head, but as I mentioned, that's just something that is in my head, and I try to miss. But I know that if I have my routine and I connect properly, that I have a good strike and I know I can put it over. And
Yeah.
I suppose the big thing is knowing my range. If I'm inside of my range, I'm going to take it, but I'm not foolish enough to take a shot or take a free where I know that this could drop short, or the team could take advantage of that and go on their own counter attack. So it's very much knowing my own range, setting up my routine, and trying to not miss it.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. You had on your Instagram story the Green Ball Company. You had a football. Has that been of any benefit? Have you found a difference with the heavier ball? Has it helped you at all?
Yeah, well, I think just in terms of it is a slightly heavier ball, so I am trying to extend my range with that. So I take it
Yeah.
from where I normally take a free and see how it goes. It is a little heavier, it's a little bit more bounce to it. So kicking it does feel a little different. It's kind of like kicking a size 5.
Yeah.
It does just feel that little difference. But I do really enjoy it. I think it's a good challenge again for me. As I said, I'm ambitious and I still want to be able to put everything over that I think I can. But I suppose I kind of got that because I hadn't done a lot of kicking of a Gaelic ball recently, and I wanted to really test myself, because kicking a rugby ball is very, very different. I had to
Yeah.
just back into that. So getting the green ball kind of helped, and just gave me an opportunity, I suppose, to practice a little bit more. And again, same with my solo and stuff like that, just to get a little bit more control on my strike.
I coach at underage levels, and I'm kind of always interested. What would you see as the most underrated skill in the game at the moment?
The instep kick pass.
Okay, is that something that we just do you kick more with instep than punt kicking? I heard someone say, I think it was an intercounty men's player, said there's no punt kicking, it's all the hook kick or instep.
Nobody in the men's game punts kick because they're not taught to punt kick. But unfortunately, in ladies football, they think all we can do is punt kick. But the punt kick is the most inaccurate kick if you're trying to put it in anywhere where you want it to go. Like, unless I would only ever punt kick if I was static and I had a free and like it wasn't more than 10 yards. And even then I sometimes wouldn't. For me, it's so natural. If you think about it, if you try punt kick at full speed,
yeah,
it's so difficult and unnatural. And the only person who I know can do it quite well is Scully. It's such an inaccurate kick. I think the instep is the way forward. And it's something that I've done a couple of little underage training sessions with various teams the last couple of months, and I'm absolutely pushing not just obviously left foot, right foot constant, but the instep kick, because it is a game changer.
Absolutely. There was an interesting post I think you put up, it was last year, kind of on Instagram, that the Instagram versus reality, and it was an interesting post because you put it up, I think it was during a running session, and you kind of gave the big smiley face, look at me of my brilliant 5k time, and then the next post was the actual reality of what it is during a running session. Are you very kind of conscious of what you post on social media, and how do you approach social media overall?
Yeah, look, I do think like everybody should be, I suppose, conscious of what they're posting on social media, because it's out there forever. There's no taking it back once it's out there. But yeah, in terms of that, like, while I never set out to be, I do know that I am a role model, and I don't want to be putting out images where, I look absolutely, I won't say perfect, but I look pretty good after a running session, when in reality, I almost died during the session. Where like, I suppose you see so many images on social media where it's airbrushed or it's edited or filtered to the point where it's quite unrealistic. And then people look at that and go, why don't I look like that? Or, and I understand that. But like, for me, after every running session, no matter whether it's, 1 set, 10 sets, anything like that, easy or hard, I am struggling. Like, and I'm sweating, a red face, I'm heavy breathing, all that sort of stuff. And you don't see that on social media because everybody wants to look at me, I look great after my running session. But I do realize that that's not truthful, and I want to show people that, like, we're all human, we all look like this, we all have rolls in our stomach when we sit down, and no matter how big or how small we are, and that's just life, and we shouldn't let that negativity affect us and think that. I would hate to set unrealistic expectations for people from based off what they see on my Instagram. It's while it is my own personal page, it is out there for the public and for everyone to see. And I would be very conscious of what I put up.
For any of the younger players listening, could you maybe make a checklist of, say, 3 things, or you can vary it up, of what it takes to become an elite athlete?
Good attitude, hard work. These are very cliche.
Sometimes cliche is the answer, though.
But like, a good attitude. If you have a bad attitude, you're not going to get anywhere. Like, nobody's going to want to play with you. Good attitude, hard work, and skill or talent. Like, and the good thing about skill and talent is you can work on it. All those 3 are workable. You can be really bad at all of them one year, and the next year you can work really, really hard and completely change. And like, I probably would have been one of those who had very negative mindset, was actually described when I came into the Irish Seven setup as lazy. Okay. I would call it shortcuts. I would have had quite a negative attitude about like myself, about maybe not being good enough, and maybe why I wasn't starting sevens games. And then I completely changed and went, you know what, even if I am a sub, like, I'm going to make a big impact when I come on, and it's going to be so good for the team. And like, all of a sudden, I actually started to play better because I was a little bit more positive to myself. It was better for the team. I started to work a lot harder and work on my fitness, and it had a massive effect. And I had the best couple of years of my career towards the end of my sevens career.
Mm-hmm. I heard a really good quote. It was about talent is a muscle, and I actually think attitude is as well. And when I heard that, I said that changed my whole thinking of there's actually like you're not just stuck with this one attitude, and you're the living proof of this. You didn't have a good attitude, but you actually changed. How hard was it to sit down with yourself and kind of have that candid conversation of, Hannah, do you know what, you're really not helping anyone here with this attitude?
Well, yeah, look, like when I was told I was lazy, like nobody, like to hear that, and I was quite young still then. I was towards the start of my sevens career, and I didn't want to hear that. And I was like, no, God, I'm working really hard and this, that, and the other. But when I kind of looked at it, I probably was a little bit, like in some ways, I wasn't given 100% every time. And you do have to sit down. It probably takes until you're a little bit older to realize that they were only saying that to help you because they knew you could be better, and there is that kind of thing. Like people don't say, or I would hope that most people wouldn't say these kind of things unless they're trying to really build you up and show you the potential you had, and I'd try to be like that both in my teaching career and any sort of coaching that I do, is that I'm trying to show you that there are work-ons, that you can do. Because I often get, how do I get good enough that I'd be noticed by the Dublin team? And you're obviously trying to give them little things that you might think might work, but like you don't want to be negative in that. Some people need to hear it. I needed to hear it, or I might never have changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Out of interest, what do you find motivates you more? Is it success or maybe a setback or failure? Failure. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Like it's great to win. It is great to win, but it's way worse to lose. It's way, way worse. Like, I'm sure I'll be thinking about that All Ireland final until I'm about 90. And that's even if I go on to lose another 5, or if I go on to win at least one, I'll be thinking about that All Ireland final, that shot I missed on goal, all that sort of stuff. Like it's defeat hits hard, and it's painful, and I don't know if that pain's ever going to go away.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. What do you think's been the biggest lesson or lessons you've learned from sport?
There's so many. I don't know. I suppose for me, sports had a huge impact on my life. I've luckily played in so many teams and with so many amazing people, but like sport has given me so much. And when I struggled with my mental health, it was sport and the relationships I made through sport, which genuinely saved my life. And I suppose it's the people you meet in sport who have the biggest impact and the memories that you make. And so like through sport, you'll make friendships that will change your life. I met my wife through sport, and I met numerous friends who, while we don't play together anymore, we're still extremely tight. And I know that in 30 plus years we'll still be meeting up and having a few drinks and reminiscing. And you can't underestimate the power of that friendship. You're with these people so often, particularly in a county setup, that you can't not become friends and and become close knit, and it has a huge impact on your life.
Hypothetically, 2022 All Ireland final, would you rather score the winning point or make the winning block?
Block all day long. The block is the most satisfying thing you can do in Gaelic football.
Okay.
I like absolutely make the winning block. Yeah, look, it'd be great to score the winning point and all that.
Yeah, nice big loopy one into the hill.
The block is just, it's my favorite part. The scoring is great, but for me, there's nothing more satisfying than a block. Like, because like for me, as someone who got blocked down in a county final this year, like it just is so deflated. Like you hit a wide, you're like, and then you get blocked down, you're like, oh my God, it's like it's the worst thing. So absolutely, and I'm a forward, but block all day long.
Yeah, I find if my teammate makes a block, it's like you just get this lift. Like I can't describe it, but it's like, and I think it also shows like how far my teammate or myself, if I make a block, how far I'm willing to go to win the game, because you're putting your body on the line.
Try having Leah Caffrey on your team, who like is just the ultimate, for me, best defender in the country, male or female. I'm lucky enough to have her on my club team as well as my county team, and she just blocks everything. Like, and I'm just like, thank you for being on my team.
Is there anyone in Dublin training you don't like marking? Is there any particular defender?
Leah.
Is it Leah? Yeah. Is she the
Look,
feared one?
she's just like, as I said, so grateful she's on my team. But
Leah, in case you're listening, this is all positive.
yeah, she's just a nightmare. She's always there. Like, she's just always throwing herself in the way. She's not afraid to bust forward when you think, oh, I can have a little break now, because and she just keep you on your toes. Like, there's plenty. Neve Collins is another, but Leah's she's a nightmare. Like, in the best possible way.
Yeah,
it's a nightmare.
You've mentioned a lot of the younger talent with Dublin. Is there any particular player that you can see really rising through the ranks over the next couple of years that we might not know about at the moment?
Well, look, I think for me, anyway, in the last couple of years, from what I've seen and what I saw this year, I think Hedjo and Niamh Heatherton has made huge strides in the game. Same with Keith O'Connor, and I definitely think next year they're going to have an even bigger impact than they've had. But there are definitely a couple of younger players coming through with Dublin that are, Hannah Leahy is one who came in and kind of helped us out with a few injuries this year and stepped up to the plate. But there's so much more to that. Abby Shields, goalkeeper of the league, and then unfortunately just has to play behind Ciara Trant in the championship, where she'd probably she'd get into any other team in the country. But thankfully we have really great depth. Kate Sullivan's another who we haven't seen enough of because of injuries, but again, next year she's just going to be tearing it up, I think. And it's exciting. Like, I kind of wish games were starting in a couple of weeks. February for me is a little too far away, but I can't wait and bring back the warm weather and championship football.
Yeah. For you personally, have you any goals for next year?
Winning All Ireland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, look, obviously that's the main one, and that's what I would hope that every county footballer in the country has. There's obviously smaller goals. Probably step up and lead the team a little bit more, work on my defensive side of things, all that sort of stuff. But the pinnacle for everybody is absolutely winning All Ireland. I haven't got one of those yet, and it's always been the goal.
I think your wife has one, does she?
Yes.
So does she remind you of that now?
Yes, every day. She does. But every day I get, or nearly every day. But I know, look, she was obviously devastated as well this year that we didn't win, but I have to get one to at least beat her.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm going to move on to sideline 7. It's the same 7 questions at the end of every episode. Question 1, what is your favourite quote?
Fail to prepare, prepare to fail.
Yeah, that's a great one. Is there any quotes used in the setup? Is that something that's done, or is it?
Yes, but I can't think of them right now.
That's all right.
There is. I don't know what they are.
No worries. Question 2, best sporting event you've been to? As a fan or as a player, you can pick one of each even.
Dubai Sevens is pretty special. It's actually currently on right now in Dubai, but crazy atmosphere, 50,000 people, everybody drinking, madness.
Yeah, that's good. Is there any particular event you'd like to go to, maybe as a spectator?
The Olympics, the athletics, Saturday night gold medals, 100 meters, 200s, all that.
Yeah, that'd be class. Third question, your biggest setback or challenge so far in your career, and how did you react to it?
I suppose, like, with my mental health, a little bit like struggling with that over the years was obviously huge and very detrimental in some ways to my career. But like, obviously friends and family and sport got me through that. But other than that, I had a pretty bad shoulder dislocation in 2015 when we won the Six Nations that put me out for the best part of a year and a half. And when you can't play sport, it's very easy to slip back into a negative mindset like that. And I suppose I just threw myself into rehab and tried to connect with friends and family again and kind of leave sport to one side for a while, but it's certainly tough.
Question 4, your biggest achievement on or off the pitch?
For me, it was getting through my struggles with mental health. Like, it was something that I struggled with for so long. To be able to say now and I'm fully recovered, and to look back on what I have achieved is something I'm very proud of.
Looking back, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
don't be so hard on yourself. You don't have to be the best at everything, and people on your support network around you do care and do want to help.
Mm-hmm. Who would be your dream dinner guest and why?
Oh, there's so many.
You can pick a few now. You can have a dinner party if you want.
Okay, dinner party. Sonia O'Sullivan, definitely, because I idolised her growing up. David Attenborough, because he's just amazing.
Okay, yeah.
Oh God, okay. Beyonce, just because. I suppose I'd have to have my wife there. She'd kill me. Oh, I'll go with them for now. That's a pretty good setup.
Yeah, that's a pretty varied setup. I'd say that'd be a pretty interesting conversation. What would be on the menu?
Probably steak.
Okay.
Steak. Although David Attenborough might be too keen on that.
Maybe not.
Steak or pizza, because I like pizza, and dessert would be like apple crumble or creme brulee or something, because can't beat that.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question before I let you go. If your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
God, probably retirement. The pension assignment. I know. Probably. Do you know what it would be called? It'd be called something like midlife crisis or something like that. Is what it would be.
Class. Hannah, look, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
No
the very
worries.
best of luck next year on and off the pitch.
Thanks, Orlaith. Appreciate it.
A massive thank you to Hannah for joining me on the podcast today. I just want to wish her and all of her Dublin teammates the very best of luck with the 2022 season. If you are enjoying the podcast, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a rating and review over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as it does help the show grow. Don't forget to check out our website and newsletter over on our website, thesidelinelive.com, for more. Thanks as always for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.